You thought spiritual awakening would be the moment everything made sense, that finally you'd rise above the chaos, the confusion, the pain. You imagined clarity, peace, joy, maybe even enlightenment. But what actually happened was something no one prepared you for. After awakening, instead of feeling in control, you felt more disoriented than ever. Everything that used to anchor you, your identity, your beliefs, your ambitions, began to dissolve. It was like standing in the middle of a storm with nothing solid to hold on to, and in that moment, something inside you whispered the one word you never expected: surrender. At first, you resisted this voice. Of course you did. We've been taught since childhood that giving up is failure, and surrender sounds like defeat. The mind jumps in to save the day. Fix it. Think harder. Try something new. And for a while, you might try. You search for answers, chase the next teacher, the next book, the next method. But slowly, over time, the same realization keeps coming back. Nothing works like it used to. You're no longer satisfied with temporary fixes. You see through the illusions. The masks are gone, and what's left is just this, the raw, unfiltered truth of the moment. You can't escape it anymore. Spiritual awakening doesn't hand you the steering wheel, it takes it away. The ego, which has spent your entire life pretending to be in charge, suddenly finds itself powerless. And that's terrifying. It's not just that your old sense of self starts to break down, it's that the mind doesn't know what to replace it with. The thoughts that used to give you comfort now feel hollow. The plans you once chased feel empty, and you're left wondering, if I'm not in control, then what am I supposed to do? That's when the idea of surrender starts to creep in, not as a concept, but as a necessity, not as a practice, but as survival. The deeper your awakening goes, the more obvious it becomes. Life is not something to be figured out. It's not a puzzle to solve. It's not a list of goals to achieve. After awakening, you begin to see that life doesn't follow the rules your mind created. It doesn't fit inside the boxes your beliefs built. You try to make sense of your new awareness, but the mind can't keep up. Everything becomes unfamiliar. What once felt certain now feels like a distant memory. You see clearly that you never really knew what was going on, you just believed you did. And in that space of disillusionment, you start to soften. As this understanding deepens, something else begins to happen. You feel resistance in a way you never noticed before. It's no longer subtle. Every time you try to control, force, or manipulate your experience, it creates inner friction. Resistance turns into suffering. Even small moments, like trying to be understood, trying to feel better, or trying to be spiritual, begin to feel heavy. The more you fight what is, the more exhausted you become. And so, without even realizing it, you begin to stop fighting. Not because you've given up, but because something in you has grown tired of the struggle. You start to recognize how much energy you were wasting trying to change what simply is. This is the quiet beginning of surrender. You're not doing it because someone told you to. You're not doing it to be holy or enlightened. You're doing it because nothing else works anymore. You've tried to force your way through awakening, and it only brought more confusion. You've tried to understand your way into peace, but peace never arrived. Eventually, you see that the mind was never meant to carry this weight. And then comes the turning point. You begin to notice something remarkable, something hidden behind all the noise. You notice that even when your thoughts are chaotic, even when your emotions are turbulent, there's a deeper presence watching it all. You begin to sense that you are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are the one observing them. And that observer, that quiet, still awareness, never changes. It doesn't argue with life. It doesn't resist. It just watches. And in that watching, there is peace. You didn't create that peace. You didn't earn it. It was always there. You just never noticed it because you were too busy trying to be in control. This is where surrender stops being an idea and becomes your natural state. When you no longer believe you're the one running the show, trying to hold on becomes pointless. You begin to soften, to allow, to let life be what it is instead of what you think it should be. But make no mistake, this isn't passive, it's not weakness. In fact, it's the most courageous thing you can do. Because surrender means stepping into the unknown. It means trusting the flow, even when you don't understand it. It means aligning yourself with something greater than the mind. Surrender is not the same as giving up. It's not resignation. It's not apathy. True surrender is full of life. It's full of power. Not the power to control life, but the power to let go of needing to. And ironically, that's when things start to shift. When you stop trying to force outcomes, life begins to open up in unexpected ways. Doors you didn't know existed begin to appear. Not because you pushed them open, but because you stopped pushing altogether. Surrender is what allows the intelligence of life to move through you instead of being blocked by your expectations. The deeper you surrender, the more you see. Everything that once felt like a struggle was really a call to let go. The pain, the confusion, the breakdowns, they weren't punishments. They were invitations. They were moments where life was gently, or sometimes not so gently, asking you to stop resisting, to stop pretending, to stop trying to hold the world together with your thoughts. And when you finally say yes to that invitation, something inside you relaxes, something opens. You stop fighting life, and life begins to carry you. And here's the secret that most people don't realize. After spiritual awakening, surrender is no longer optional. You can try to avoid it, but it'll keep coming back. The illusion of control becomes too painful to keep pretending. You try to go back to the way things were before, but it doesn't work. You try to create a new identity out of your spirituality, but it feels fake. You try to fix yourself again, but nothing really sticks. Eventually, you realize the only path left is the one that requires nothing from you at all, just your presence, just your willingness to stop resisting. When you finally let go, something incredible happens. The peace you were searching for all those years reveals itself. Not because you found the answer, but because you stopped asking the wrong questions. You stop chasing clarity, and clarity begins to appear on its own. You stop trying to force happiness, and a quiet joy begins to rise naturally. Everything you were running after begins to flow toward you, not because you demanded it, but because you stopped pushing it away. Surrender opens the gates, not to some fantasy life, but to the life that's always been here, waiting to be seen. You begin to see that surrender isn't something you do once. It's not a checkbox on your spiritual to-do list. It's a way of living. It's an ongoing moment-to-moment relationship with life. You surrender to this breath. You surrender to this thought. You surrender to this experience, exactly as it is. And in doing so, you become deeply intimate with reality. Not the reality you wish for, but the one that's actually here. That's where freedom lives. Not in control, but in connection. Not in domination, but in openness. And in this space, you begin to see life differently. You don't need to understand everything. You don't need to have it all figured out. You start to live in the mystery, not fight against it. You begin to trust that maybe, just maybe, life knows what it's doing, even when you don't. And you realize this is the beauty of awakening. It doesn't make you a master of life. It shows you that life is already whole, already complete, already intelligent beyond understanding. Your job is no longer to manage the unfolding, but to meet it fully, with presence, with honesty, with surrender. So if you're going through awakening and everything feels upside down, if the ground beneath you has vanished and nothing makes sense anymore, know this: you're not doing anything wrong. You're actually being shown the truth. And the truth is simple. The more you try to hold on, the more you suffer. But the moment you let go, the moment you surrender, everything shifts. Not because the world outside changes, but because your relationship with it does. If this message resonated with you, and if you felt the deep inner pull toward surrender, then you're not alone. Many are waking up to this path. And if you want to support the creation of more content like this, consider becoming a member of this channel. It helps us continue diving deep into topics that truly matter. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos, and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you experienced this kind of surrender? What changed for you when you let go? Your story might just help someone else take their next step.